Scene script. Have you ever wondered why we don't just float away into space? Well, there's a mysterious force that keeps our feet firmly planted on the ground. This force is called gravity. It might seem like magic, but it's a natural force that's always at work, even if we can't see it. Now, imagine gravity as an invisible superhero. Its superpower, keeping everything from flying off into space. Yes, gravity is like a super strong, invisible string that pulls everything toward the center of the Earth. Without gravity, we wouldn't be able to walk on the ground, play soccer, or even drink a glass of water. You see, gravity doesn't just keep us on the planet. It's also responsible for the way liquids behave, making sure that water flows downwards and not upwards or sideways. And it's not just here on Earth. Gravity is at work everywhere in the universe. It's the force that holds the moon in orbit around the Earth, and the Earth in orbit around the sun. Gravity is so powerful that it can even bend light. That's right. When light from a distant star passes by a massive object like a galaxy, the light doesn't travel in a straight line. Instead, it follows a curved path because of the gravitational pull of the massive object. This is known as gravitational lensing, and it's one of the many ways that gravity shapes our universe. But gravity isn't only about keeping things in place. It's also about attraction. In fact, the word gravity comes from the Latin word gravitas, which means weight or seriousness. And seriously, gravity is a force to be reckoned with. From the smallest speck of dust to the largest star, everything in the universe is attracted to everything else. That's because of gravity. It's like a cosmic dance where everything is drawn to everything else in a beautiful, never-ending ballet. So gravity is like an invisible string keeping everything in its place. It's a force that's always at work, shaping our lives and our universe in ways we might not even realize. But how can we see gravity in action, you might ask? Well, we can't see gravity itself, but we can certainly see its effects. Let's imagine a simple experiment that can demonstrate gravity. Picture this: you're standing on top of a tall building. In your hands, you have two objects, a feather and a stone. You decide to drop both objects from the same height at the same time. Now, what do you think will happen? Well, you might think that the feather, being light, would float down slowly while the stone, being heavier, would plummet straight down. This is a common misconception, but the truth is a bit different. You see, in the absence of air resistance, both the feather and the stone would hit the ground at the same time. This might seem a little strange, but it's true. The only reason the feather floats down slowly in our everyday experience is because of air resistance, not because it's lighter. This is a principle that was famously demonstrated by Italian scientist Galileo Galilei. He supposedly dropped two spheres of different masses from the Leaning Tower of Pisa to show that they hit the ground at the same time. Gravity pulls on all objects with the same force, regardless of their mass. This means that a heavier object doesn't fall faster than a lighter one. It's a bit counterintuitive, but it's one of the many fascinating aspects of gravity. So the next time you see a leaf floating gently to the ground while an apple falls straight down, remember that it's not just the weight of the objects that's at play. It's also the air resistance. Without it, they'd both hit the ground at the same time thanks to gravity. And that's the magic of gravity. It's an invisible force that governs the motion of everything around us, from the smallest dust particle to the largest planets and stars in the universe. Even though we can't see gravity, we can see its effects. Have you ever played with magnets and wondered how they work? Well, let's dive right in and unravel the magic of magnets. You see, magnets are more than just cool toys. They are a fascinating example of science in action. Let's start with the basics. The magic behind magnets lies in a fundamental force known as magnetism. This is an invisible force or field caused by the unique properties of certain materials. In simple terms, magnetism is a force that can attract or repel other objects. Now, think of magnets as superheroes with the power of attraction and repulsion. They have two different ends, each with its own special power. These ends are called poles. One end is the North Pole, and the other is the South Pole. Here's where things get really interesting. The North Pole of one magnet will be attracted to the South Pole of another magnet. They pull towards each other like best friends. On the flip side, if you try to push two North Poles or two South Poles together, they repel each other, like arch-enemies. But what's really happening here? Well, it's all about tiny particles called electrons. They are like tiny magnets themselves, each with a north and a south pole. In most objects, these tiny magnets are arranged in different directions. But in magnets, they all line up in the same direction. This alignment creates the magnetic force field that can push or pull other objects. Here's a fun fact. Did you know that our Earth acts like a giant magnet? That's right. It has its own north and south poles. This is why compasses work. They use a tiny magnet that aligns itself with the Earth's magnetic field, pointing towards the North Pole. It's exciting to think about, isn't it? How something as simple as a magnet can hold such an incredible secret. It's like having a superpower that can attract or repel things without even touching them. So magnets have this amazing power to push and pull things without even touching them. But how can we see magnetism in action, you ask? Well, let's dive right into it. Imagine a world where you can move things without even touching them. Sounds like magic, right? But it's not magic, it's science, and it's all thanks to magnetism. Let's do a simple experiment to see this in action. All you need is a magnet and some paper clips. Now place the paper clips on a table and hold the magnet above them without touching them. What do you think will happen? If you guess that the paper clips would jump up and stick to the magnet, then give yourself a pat on the back because that's exactly what happens. Now you might be wondering, how does this work? Well, it's all because of the invisible forces of magnetism. The magnet creates a magnetic field around itself, which pulls the paper clips towards it, even without touching them. This is a simple demonstration of how magnetism works. The same principle applies to many things around us. For instance, the door of your fridge shuts tight because of a magnet. Even the Earth itself is a giant magnet, which is why compasses always point north. So what's the science behind this? Well, everything is made up of tiny particles called atoms. Some atoms have a property known as magnetic moment, which means they behave like teeny tiny magnets. When these atoms are aligned in the same direction, they create a magnetic field. But here's the really cool part. When you bring a magnet close to the paper clips, the atoms inside the paper clips align themselves in the direction of the magnetic field. This alignment turns the paper clips into temporary magnets, which are attracted to the permanent magnet. So, next time you see a magnet, remember there's a whole world of invisible forces at play. And remember, it's not magic, it's science. Isn't it amazing how magnets can move things without touching them? It's just one of the many wonders of magnetism, a fascinating force that's constantly at work, even if we can't always see it. Scene script. Science isn't just something we learn about in school, it's all around us. Indeed, the wonders of science aren't confined to the four walls of a classroom or a laboratory. They're right here, in our homes, in the parks we play in, even in the food we eat. And the best part? You don't need a fancy degree to explore these everyday marvels. All you need is curiosity, a keen eye, and a dash of creativity. Let's jog our memory a bit, shall we? We started our journey by unraveling the mystery of gravity. Did you know that the same force which keeps us grounded on Earth is also responsible for the moon orbiting around our planet? Fascinating, isn't it? And not to forget, gravity plays an essential role in our daily lives. Whether it's about keeping our feet firmly on the ground or enjoying a thrilling roller coaster ride, gravity is always at work. Next, we dove into the magic of magnets and magnetism. Who would have thought that those tiny fridge magnets could teach us so much? Just as gravity keeps us grounded, magnetism holds our universe together. Remember how we experimented with magnets and iron filings to see the invisible magnetic field? That's science in action. Science isn't just about facts and figures. It's about asking questions, making observations, and seeking answers. It's about looking at the world with a sense of wonder and curiosity. And you don't need a fancy laboratory for that. Your home, your backyard, even your kitchen can be your personal science lab. So keep exploring, keep experimenting, and most importantly, keep asking questions. Because every question you ask, every experiment you conduct brings you one step closer to understanding this marvelous universe we live in. Remember, every great scientist started out as a curious kid just like you.